Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Do not forget to subscribe and be aware we have a backup sister channel called the Forensics Unplugged channel, and we also have a cool Patreon page which is a private community that you can join to get access to all different tierings and rewards. For further information, check out the description. Right, let's flying through the plug. Today I want to do a video talking about how you could go about washing your car in the summer sunshine when water spots and soap stains become a problem. And I'm just going to run through a list of tips and ideas that I think will help you out. You can do this. Let's just go through the list. Number one, you'll have heard this one before, guys, but it's avoiding the midday sun. Obviously, only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The hotter it is, the worse it is. In the morning, it's a lot cooler. And in the afternoon, when the sun's just going down as well, it's a lot cooler and it's better times. So you can't always do that. And I know that's the obvious thing, but I thought I'd mention it because it is the most important. Avoid the midday sun. Point number two, related to this, in the earlier points of the day and the afternoon, when the sun is lower, you get better shade. So try and position your car, if you can, to make use of shade from the house. In the mornings, I get quite a lot of shade from the garage, so I can actually put the car right in front of the garage and get the shade. The third tip, guys, is tweak your process if you are washing in the sun in the middle of the day, because you haven't been able to do the first two things. You know, blazing hot sun, burning down, hot panels. Tweak your process. What I mean by tweak your process, guys, in the winter, typically I'll throw a whole layer of snow foam over the car and let it dwell for 10 minutes. In the summer, if I do that, I'm going to make an absolute mess and it's going to be a nightmare to sort out. So, first tip I would say, guys, is do your alloy wheels first, work on them individually, one at a time. Don't even pre-soak all 4 alloys and start working on one. Work on one alloy first, pre-soak it all, blast it out, go in with the brushes, do all your thing, and then blast it out, move on to the next one and repeat. Okay, and that's where having a little handgun and a longer kind of lead, you know, a longer hose on your cartridge is really handy for getting around doing the cars. The next thing is then, related to your process, when you put on your pre-wash on the car, do not leave it for 10 minutes. Sounds obvious, guys. In the summer, you tend to have dust. You don't have that thick, salty road feel. It just tends to be dust. Maybe, you know, some sticky sap and that aphid stuff. But what I'll do in the summer is snow foam on, and then typically snow foam off after a minute, something like that. Okay, so tweaks to your process that will be different if it's cool. And we'll talk about some more specific tips as I go through this list. Next tip, number 4, do the hot bits last. What are you talking about? Guys, typically you'll find the sun is pointing somewhere down at your car and there'll be a side that's shaded and the side that's hot. Or if it's right overhead, it'll be the roof panels that are hot and the side bits will be cool. But typically, assume the sun is over there, okay? And this is the cool bit. I will work on the cool bit first, because if I work on the hot side over there and then move over there, that blazing hot side is going to dry a lot quicker. So the closer I leave that to the end, the less that things are going to be dwelling on there. So think about which bits of the car are hot and be mindful of that, okay? Right, the next thing, and this is perhaps the most important tip of all of them. Tip 5, work in sections when you're doing the contact wash. I would suggest you actually even might want to consider ditching the 2-bucket method if you're doing it on hot days, because your rinse bucket is not going to fill up with dirty wash, you know, dirt and mud and all that, because there's not dirt and mud on the car. The difference is in having those 2 buckets is minimal, and they slow you down as you're going around the car, I find. You might want to ditch it, you don't have to. But the important bit is work in sections. So I can start washing this section of the car, you know, working my way over and washing this whole entire section. And then when I finish washing it, rather than just going around doing the entire car, I'll have the gun to hand and I'll blast down this section and get all of that soap off. Because as well as water spots, really, soap stains are the bigger problem, because that soap stain leaves a horrible film or patches So you need to be really careful with soap stains. When I then move on to the next section, and you can work out which way you want to, what sections you want to do, or however you want to do it. But I then say, for example, move on to the front or the other side. When I'm rinsing down this section after finishing it, I'll just quickly go back over this first section and rinse it down as well, because it will start, you know, it could be drying, and then move on to the next section. And when I'm rinsing the third section, I'll just quickly bang, bang, keep these sections wet as well, okay? So work in sections. Point 6, have your gun, your rinse method to hand at all times, so that you can just quickly rinse the car down, cool it down if you see some of the water and that drying while you're actually cleaning one section, which can happen if it's baking hot. So always have that gun ready near where you're working. Point 7, and again, this is a really, really important point, guys, and it's just a simple, pragmatic point, is that be ready to dry your car. For example, don't go out there and wash it and have your drying towel sitting around in the garage, and you've got to come in here after rinsing it and grab your drying towels and go back out, because you literally want to be doing your final rinse down of the car after you've done all your sections, and as soon as you turn the gun off, you want to be grabbing your towel, then straight over and get 99% of the water off of the main panels first. We're less worried about the little bits of water in here, and, you know, little bits of water kind of lower down, and, you know, that run out of here. We're worried about just getting 99% of the water off all of the parts of the car that you're going to really be seeing. And when you go to dry as well, you might want to dry the bit that is in the sun first, because that's where the water is going to dry. That goes back to the point about working on the hot bits first, being mindful of what's hot. So be ready to dry, guys. Bang, as soon as you finish rinsing, straight in with the towel drying. Any delay, and that is the biggest risk that will go wrong. Okay, some specific product things here, guys. Number 8, be careful with solvent-based products in the heat, in particular tar and glue removers. OEM clear coat is good and it can handle it. There's some aftermarket clear coats that are, you know, you get the old eBay wing is the classic. You buy the eBay wing and someone's painted it with some awful rattle can clear coat, and you hit it with a tar and glue in the middle of summer, and that panel is roasting hot. When panels are hot, as I've said before, they're closer to their natural melting point, which sounds weird because you think of the clear coat as a solid, but it's actually a liquid which is set, which was once a liquid and can be dissolved. You can dissolve clear coat. And I've, over the years, it's a problem more for the professionals, where you're dealing with all these different cars, and sooner or later you'll deal with a car that's got awful clear coat. Be careful of solvents in the sun. In fact, I would just say do not use them on hot panels in the sun. Be careful with fallout removers. Point number 9. Fallout removers, when they dry, can leave horrible white film over the car. Some of the film that's left by fallout removers can be removed just by wiping them with a wash mitt, you know, with water and shampoo, just washing it off. But sometimes that stuff can be a nightmare to remove. You might even have to clay and polish. Be very careful with fallout removers. I wouldn't personally use them out on a baking hot day. Here we go. Number 10, be careful with caustic detergents. You know, sometimes you need caustic detergents, strong detergents, when you're cleaning things like alloys with the red brake disc that's got all rusty and embedded, and things like that, and just cars that are hammered in the heat. Again, caustic detergents, when they dry, can really leave a film behind, which can actually etch clear coat and stuff like that. And especially on alloy wheels, you'll often see white film layers and deposits where they haven't been rinsed and they've dried, and that can cause damage. Next thing, point number 11, waxes, paste waxes, carnauba paste waxes in particular, can be a real pain on hot days. Paste waxes, the materials, the waxes in there, typically have a melting point of between 60 to 75, 80. Carnauba's about 75, paraffin's about 60. These wax blends, where they're melted down and added with oils, what you don't realise is the melting point of those processed waxes, when they're produced into a product, is probably around 60 to 65 degrees. So your panel temperatures can exceed that on baking hot days. So your wax layer is actually kind of melted on the car. And you want to avoid trying to apply a new layer of wax, because even if the solvent vapes out, the wax will still be melted and it'll be sticky and greasy and smeary. And you really want a wax to dry cure and buff to a shine. So paste waxes might be a no-no, unless it's a specific product which is known to work well in the sun that's a wax, and there are some out there. So think about that. Another thing, guys, point 12, tip 12, have a good water spot remover. The one I recommend because it's practical is the Koch Chemie FSE. Great product, cheap, costs £10 for a litre, so £5 for a 500ml bottle. I think you can buy tons of it if you want, I'm not sure about that. Great product that you can use if you finish your wash, you get it in or whatever, or it might be out and you spot water spots and they've embedded in. Detail sprays don't remove them very well, unless sometimes you catch them early with a detail spray, or even you can wash back over them and dry it again, it will take it out. But if they had a chance to dry, you need a water spot remover. And FSE, just spray it on, let it sit for a second, then buff it. And it's very effective at dealing with your average kind of water spots. Or you might want to have, if you've got a major water spot problem, and you just, a major water spot problem, you can get dedicated water spot treatment products that aren't detail sprays like FSE. And I'm looking right behind you on the shelf, right there somewhere, is Geon Water Spot, which is a pure water spot remover. And that is a very effective product as well. So you might want to consider having those. Be careful about using pure water spot removers in sunlight because they're acids. So you fix that later on when everything's cooled down. Point number 13, sorry. Point number 13, very important point, very, very, very important point. Listen to this one. Lower your concentrations of detergents. Whatever mixture you're using for snow foam ratios, lower it down. Whatever mixture concentration you're using for shampoo, lower it down if you're working in the direct sunlight heat. It helps, it really does help. If you have like thick soap, which I love to do, especially in the winter, just get loads of lubricity and loads of foam and work the foam and stuff, great. I wouldn't do that in the summer. You just don't need to. Less soap is better, and just low pressure, sweep over the car. Your car won't have all of that dried on road film. So that's a very important tip. Some other things, guys, if you've got, if you're really into your detailing, your setup, you can look at using the resin bots, the filtered water systems that you can connect up to reduce the amount of minerals that are in your rinse water. Why haven't I done that? It's just a little, I haven't done it because it's just a little bit too much for me, but I say that about lots of things, and when I finally invest in them, they can be amazing. So the truth is, I don't really know how effective that is, but I don't have a major problem with water spots, and I can work around it. That's why I haven't invested in that sort of stuff. Tip 15, guys, get yourself a good drying aid as well. What I'll say about this is, it's more important to go from rinsing to drying immediately than it is to use the drying aid, in my opinion. But the drying aid, it's optional, but it can mean you've got less buffage on the car. The thing I'm cautious about is it can slow you down just having to spray this on, because while I'm sitting there spraying it and I'm trying to towel it at the same time, I could have been round and toweled the entire car. So if you're going to use a drying aid, what I'd suggest you do is after the rinse, bang, get 99% of the water off of the car straight away, especially off of your main panels. And then perhaps you could go back round the car and use your drying aid and work the drying aid as you're using it. Because again, putting the drying aid down, if you're putting it around the entire car, by the time you get back round to the beginning, parts of it could have dried. So work the drying aid as you're using it to add some protection and gloss up the panel. Use it slightly differently. So guys, those are my tips on how to wash and dry your car in the sunshine. There's so many other detailing functions. Should you coat your car out in the sunshine? Should you polish your car out in the sunshine? This discussion can go on for a long time, but I would be very cautious about polishing out in the sun when it's really hot. And that's not always avoidable. And coating cars out in blazing hot kind of temperatures and stuff like that, I would avoid that as well. That will really, if your panels are roasting hot and you're trying to put a coating on them, you could end up making a mess of the car. So no, I wouldn't recommend you do that either. I know you don't always have those luxuries. I'm just giving you my sort of raw thoughts on it. And that's it, guys. I hope those tips help. Organisation is the key with everything, isn't it? So there's the preventing side of this, and lots of these tips are around preventing. And then the water spot kind of removers, the FSE, is a good tip that if it does happen, that you can kind of get around it. Water spots are a major pain, but once you've got your car paintwork like polished and nice and sort of water spot free, you want to kind of keep it that way. I'm very lucky that after I've washed my car kind of out there, I can wheel it into that garage in the where it's going to be nice and cool, and then I can look at the car and sort of say, right, get some light on it. Is this panel, is there any watermarks anywhere? And if so, bust out the FSE and start working, you know, on sections and getting that paintwork clear and clean. You know, you don't want water spots, you don't want excess kind of product on there as well. So having a garage is a great tool, but it's not always possible. So you just kind of have to do your best when you're outside, and just put some grease marks on the car from touching it from my hands, or I've had a sandwich. So don't touch the car. So guys, let me know if there's any little tips I've missed there. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope this video was useful. Yes, you can wash your car out in the heat. Oh, another thing, some of you guys, I got like more Australian viewers than I realised after doing that Australian accent the other day. Yes, in the UK, you know, a hot day is 25, 30 degrees. And yes, in Australia or other countries, a hot day is 40, 45, 50 degrees. So, you know, my thoughts on washing cars in the sun and sort of saying it's not that bad, yes, you can do it. I don't live in a climate where it's like, you know, your car is literally, you can't touch it because it's like glowing with heat like a barbecue. So yeah, let me know in extreme heat how you guys cope and what you do. I bet most of you try and avoid the midday sun, especially you crazy Australians. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon on the Forensics Detailing channel. Do not forget to subscribe. See you later.
Holding on to what I knew, but the moment's gone. Where was I when